Yep, all this stuff is made from bean water. Today I'm going to answer every question you've ever had about Aquafaba. What it is, how it's made, and everything you can do with it. And I'll even give you a few recipes to some of those things. This is your ultimate Aquafaba guide. Greetings and welcome back to PB with Jay. Here on the channel we focus on all things plant-based goodness, and today we're going to walk you through pretty much every single thing you ever wanted to know about Aquafaba. First of all, where did it get its name? It's just like Latin kind of stuff. Aqua is water, faba is bean. It's not that exciting. I've done other videos on Aquafaba here on the channel in the past that I'll put a link to in the description down below. And in one of them, I mentioned that Aquafaba was recently discovered in like 2014 by a French chef. And this is not necessarily entirely true because Aquafaba itself, the liquid from chickpea water, from chickpeas, has been used for probably throughout all of history. But that was a person who was looking for a way to replace eggs in something like a meringue. And as far as I know in the research that I've done, that was the first person who realized it had these whipping properties. Now, how does that work? Well, because Aquafaba contains proteins and starches that mimic egg whites. So it lets it foam, emulsify, as well as bind. And for those of you who are wondering, can you replace it for every single thing that eggs do? No, you can't like scramble it up into an Aquafaba scramble. That would not work. Basically, it can replace eggs in anything where you're using the liquid of either egg yolks or egg whites, and we'll talk about the difference between those two different things in a second. For those of you that are asking, does it taste really gross in chickpea? No, not really, and especially if you're using this in baking, which most people do, adding in the flavoring and the sugars are going to completely eradicate that taste anyway. And I find even when I use it in savory applications, I've never noticed a chickpea vibe. Now, the reason that I started using Aquafaba was really just because I was looking for a substitute for both eggs and oil, and it works perfectly for that. It is cholesterol free. It is fat-free. Per tablespoon, it's only 5 calories compared to any oil you would use, which is 100 calories per tablespoon. So on top of it being just a great replacement for anyone who's got an egg allergy and wants to use it for that, or anyone who's trying to eat whole food plant-based and wants to avoid oil or eggs for that reason, it's kind of a no-brainer, especially when you consider it's the kind of product you typically throw out, whether you are using canned beans or making your own chickpeas from scratch. Now you might be asking, how do you get it? Well, honestly, you can just get a can of chickpeas from your grocery store. Make sure when you read the label that it doesn't have a bunch of like crap inside of it. This one just says chickpeas, water, and salt. This is the reason I make my own. I don't know how much salt is in here. I don't want my stuff to be salty, but I would just do, if you are using this in a recipe from the can, I would recommend not adding salt or less salt to the recipe you're using. Now, for those of you that are asking about it being in a metal can and if that's a health issue, look for cans that are BPA free. Otherwise, I strongly recommend making your own. Now, if you want a really easy guide for how to do it, we've got a whole section on it in our cookbook, which you can get in its ebook form at the link on the screen right here. But if you are old-fashioned and want a hard copy, we got a lot of copies available for that as well. You can just email me right here and I will let you know how to get a copy. But there's a lot of recipes in here that use Aquafaba. And like I said, we got a whole section at the back telling you how to make it, which is foolproof. And that's the stuff that I'm using today. So I'm gonna walk you through that process from a previous video right now. The easiest way to get Aquafaba is simply by keeping the liquid that you find in a can of chickpeas that you get from the store. Make sure you check the label on the can that there's no additional things added to it. But if you want to make your own with the same consistency, here's the recipe I've been using. This recipe makes about 3.5 to 4 cups of Aquafaba, as well as a lot of chickpeas that you can use for many other things. We've used chickpeas for a lot of things here on the channel, from falafels, to like a tuna salad sandwich to cookie dough. That's right, we have a cookie dough recipe.
Oh.
You're welcome. I'll link it in the description down below. If you've got some time in advance, soak 2 cups of chickpeas in just a bunch of water and let them sit ideally overnight or up to 8 hours. It's just gonna reduce your cooking time. I will now give you stovetop and Instant Pot directions for how to make it. For the Instant Pot, if you soaked your chickpeas in advance, drain out that soaking liquid, add them to your Instant Pot with another 6 cups of fresh water. Cook them for about 20 minutes and then let them naturally release, which should take another 30 minutes. Then you're gonna let them just sit inside there until they come to room temperature. You're then gonna transfer all of that into another container and then just leave it in the fridge, ideally for another couple of hours overnight if you have time to do so, and just let it all just marinate and gel together for maximum protein saturation. If you didn't soak them in advance, that's totally fine. Just give them a quick rinse and instead add 7.5 cups of fresh water to your Instant Pot. And now you're gonna cook it on manual for 46 minutes. And then the rest of the same instructions I already gave applies. For the stovetop, it's pretty much essential that you soak them in advance. Otherwise, it's just gonna take you forever to cook. Don't do that to yourself. Just like with the Instant Pot, you're gonna drain the original soaking liquid and then you're gonna add this to the stovetop with 8 cups of fresh water. Cover the pot with a lid and bring it to a boil. And just be careful because it can boil over quickly. You want to bring it down to a nice simmer. Skim off any foam that collects at the top and just discard that. After the chickpeas do come to a boil, bring them down to a simmer and then cook them for like 65 to 75 minutes. And then just like the Instant Pot, once it's cooked, turn the heat off, let it just sit and come to room temperature all together, and then you're gonna transfer that to another container, put it in the fridge, leave it for a couple hours or overnight. And then no matter which of these methods you've chosen, once they've cooled for a couple hours in the fridge, you're then gonna strain that liquid out and put the chickpeas aside and put the liquid into something like a mason jar. I like to write the date on it so that I know when that batch was made. This stuff's gonna last at least a week inside of your fridge, but you can also freeze it. Just make sure it is nice and cool before you do so. If it starts to smell a little bit extra funky or gets really, really cloudy, it's probably time to toss it. The best thing to do after you've made it is to store it in the fridge so it can chill. I find it whips better if it's a little bit cold. And this is kind of the texture you're looking for. It's got a little bit of viscousness to it. It's not too thick. It's not too watery. What you're going to find is that if you are trying to whip it and it's not whipping within like 10 minutes, it does take a little bit of time. You probably need to reduce it a little bit. It's too thin, right? But it can take up to like 8 to 10 minutes to really start to do its thing. So, you gotta be a little bit patient. But the other really important thing, and we'll talk about this when we get into it, is it needs a stabilizer. In this case, we're gonna use cream of tartar. But I'm jumping ahead a little bit. For those of you that are asking, how long does this stuff last? I find it lasts at least a week in the fridge, sometimes a little bit longer. But if you want to get your real bang for your buck, pour this into an ice cube tray and then freeze it. Now, in terms of the ratios, if you're using this to replace an entire egg, you're gonna want about 3 tablespoons of Aquafaba. If you're using it to replace an egg white, you wanna use 2 tablespoons. And if you're using it to replace an egg yolk, 1 tablespoon will do the job. If you're using this to replace oil in a recipe, it's just the same amount, 1 to 1. Now, for those of you that are asking, can I replace Aquafaba in both eggs and oil in the same recipe? Stick around until a little bit later on in the video and I'll talk about that. Now let me just go through a couple troubleshooting tips, a few of which I've already mentioned. If it is too thick, add a little bit of water. If it's too thin, boil it down a little bit. As I mentioned, whipping can take a little bit of time, so don't give up on it. It's not uncommon for it to take up to 10 minutes to whip up properly. And make sure that your bowl is clean and grease-free as well if you're gonna use it. You're gonna wanna use cream of tartar to act as a stabilizer. I've heard some people use lemon juice. I've never personally done that, but apparently it can work as well. The ratio you want is like 1/8 of a teaspoon per 2 to 3 tablespoons of Aquafaba. To get the ultimate whip, you're gonna wanna both chill the aquafaba and the bowl you're whipping with. Flavor tips is just to use an extract if you really are worried about masking that chickpea flavor. But like I said, I've never really had that problem. A couple common fails that I've seen is obviously not having the right consistency of the liquid. In terms of flavor, using the wrong bean, I have done a video where I tried a bunch of different bean liquids to see if they would whip, and most of them do, but the flavor makes a difference. You're gonna wanna use either chickpeas or any white bean will actually work in its place if you don't like chickpeas or can't eat them for whatever reason. The last fail is trying to whip it by hand. I don't know if you've got like arms like a beast, but I know that if I tried to whip this thing for 10 minutes, my arm would fall off. So you're really gonna wanna use a stand mixer. Now let's go through a quick laundry list of all the various things and ways you can use aquafaba to create a fluffy chocolate mousse, to make a pavlova or a pie topping, to make marshmallow fluff or even marshmallows. I haven't done it myself, but I've heard it done. Buttercream frosting, French macaroons. This is an advanced thing you can do with aquafaba. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to see me tackle something like this or anything else that I'm talking about on this list that I don't do in this video. And maybe I'll do like an advanced aquafaba video down the line. Nougat or fudge. Apparently you can make fudge. Again, I haven't done this one, but I'm very curious about it. And I've seen enough examples of it working that I believe it. Pancakes and waffles, binding for veggie burgers, using this to replace oil in a focaccia. I have that recipe in my cookbook too. I discovered that one when I was doing a review for Pamela Anderson's book. Using it as like an egg wash on top of breads or pastries. Using it as like an oil replacement if you want to roast vegetables or potatoes, just put like a tablespoon or two and toss them around just like you would with oil. Cocktail foams, so you can replace the egg white in a whiskey sour with aquafaba. And I've even seen some people make vegan butters and cheeses using this. Again, haven't done it myself, but let me know and maybe we'll do a deeper dive into that. Now, what are some of the limitations of aquafaba? Like I said a little bit earlier, you can't use it as an egg in terms of like scrambling it up and eating it that way. It's just not gonna work. If you wanna make a fail video and try, I'd love to watch that. Some recipes are just not gonna work perfectly, all right? You're not gonna get the same crispiness in your chocolate chip cookies that you would if you're using like a fat like butter or oil. But if you're using aquafaba, it's because you're looking for a healthier alternative. So I don't know, suck it up, buttercup. That's why you're using it. I've personally never experienced this, but I do know some people have said that it can cause gas and indigestion because it's got saponins in it and other stuff like that. I've never ever had an issue with that. If you're prone to bloating and issues like that, maybe just start off slow and maybe don't do like a dressing with it where you're using a whole bunch of it. For those of you that are worried about the saponin levels inside of aquafaba, that's why even it's more important for you to make your own so you can soak the chickpeas in advance and discard that water, which is gonna get rid of a lot of it. Saponins have a lot of really, really strong health benefits that people have seen. And the amount that you would consume, from the research I have done, it doesn't seem to be a detriment. So I think with very few exceptions, with very specific individuals, it's entirely fine to consume. I've never had an issue. I've never heard of anyone in specific that I know having an issue, but you let me know in the comments down below if you have any information to the contrary, and I'll include that in an upcoming video. So now that you've been wonderfully patient, we're gonna make a few things with this. First, we're gonna start off by whipping it up and we're gonna make some meringues. I'm gonna show you how to make a quick vegan mayo, and then we're even gonna make some fudgy brownies. But first, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the reason that I started using aquafaba in the first place, and that was because I went on a really big health journey. For those of you that don't know, I lost half of my body weight by going whole food, plant-based, and just really getting in touch with my healthier side. One of the bigger challenges that I had when I was losing weight is I was really focused on the scale and just specifically the number on the scale. And I actually took my weight loss journey too far at one point. And that's because I put so much emphasis on that number on the scale and not other health metrics. And that's why I'm really proud that this video is being sponsored by Hume Health and their Body Pod. The Hume Health Body Pod is a scale. It will give you that number, but it gives you so much more. What's awesome about their app that comes with it is that it creates this digital twin for you that gives you all these other metrics that are so much more important than the actual number on the scale. It gives you your visceral fat, your subcutaneous fat. It tells you your actual health age based on the way it looks and scans through your body. It literally has dozens of markers that are on top of just that number on the scale. So for me, it is the ultimate scale that does what you could do in a DEXA scan, but you can do it in your own home and you don't have to pay hundreds of dollars and go to somewhere else to do it. And you can do it whenever you want because it's totally safe to do so. I've been using this Hume Health Body Pod just to help me with my weight maintenance since I lost the weight, and I've been maintaining the same 5 pounds for the last 5 years. And by saying 5 pounds, I weigh more than 5 pounds, I've been maintaining the difference in between. I hope that makes sense. So if you're interested in getting your own Hume Health Body Pod, they're gonna hook you up with an awesome discount. I can't give you specifics on it because depending on when you watch this video, the discount shifts and changes. But there's a QR code on the screen, there's a link in the description down below, and just click on it to check out more from the fine folks at Hume Health Body Pod. All right, now let's make some tasty stuff with Aquafaba. So the first thing I'm actually gonna make is the brownie. I know the brownie is the showstopper, I should make it third, but I'm gonna be real with you. Those meringues take a while to cook at a low temperature, and I wanna get those brownies out of the oven a little bit faster. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're gonna get an 8x8 baking sheet ready with some parchment. Then we're gonna whip up our Aquafaba until it's nice and frothy. We're gonna add in that cream of tartar as well to act as a stabilizer. If you notice that while you're adding your sugar that your Aquafaba whip starts to fall a little bit, like it gets liquidy, it's because you're adding your sugar too fast. So you should really just add it in 1 tablespoon at a time until the peaks start to stiffen again, and then add another tablespoon. Generally like 1 tablespoon every 30 to 60 seconds, airing closer to the side of 60 seconds. And then we're going to slowly add in the sugar, applesauce, and vanilla. So for those of you that were asking, can you use Aquafaba to replace both eggs and oil in the same recipe? In theory you can. Personally, I find that if I want something like a baked good and it calls for both things, I want to replace one of those things with something that just has a bit more substantialness. So sometimes I'll replace the egg with like a flax egg or a chia egg, or in baking in particular, what I like to do is replace some of it with applesauce. So for this recipe for the brownies, I'm replacing a 1/2 cup of oil with a 1/2 cup of applesauce. So we're gonna add that applesauce in along with the vanilla. Then we're gonna slowly sift in the flour, cocoa powder, baking powder, and salt, and we're just gonna fold that in nice and gently, so you don't wanna have your whisker still going at this point. You can just leave it like this. If you want it to be a little extra treaty, put a few chocolate chips inside, or once you put the batter into the pan, put some chocolate chips on top, some walnuts or nuts in there as well if you would like. And we're gonna bake that for 25 to 30 minutes until set, but slightly fudgy inside. And then we're gonna cool that completely and then we'll cut it up. Okay, so this brownie, this is crazy good. Seriously, I'm gonna keep tweaking with this recipe. Like, it's close, but this is the kind of thing, next time I do a book, this might end up in it. Let me know if you wanna see that. But I mean, you already got the recipe. But you get this version, because maybe it'll get better. I put nuts on top, but Annie wouldn't like it. Now the next thing we're gonna make is an oil-free Aquafaba mayonnaise. And you have two options for this depending on your allergies or preferences. You can either use a half a cup of cashews that you've soaked for a little while in warm water, or you can use a half a block of silken tofu, like roughly 150 grams. And you're gonna put all of these ingredients into a blender. I just use like a little Magic Bullet hand blender and just mix that until nice and smooth and creamy. This is really, really quick. You don't have to put this into a blender or into a mix master like you do with some of these other recipes. So this is the kind of thing you can make like that. It's creamy, it's tangy. I do not like mayo, and even I like this stuff. This is a really good basis for anything you need an aioli for. If you want to add any other seasonings, a little bit of garlic, hot sauce, whatever kind of aioli you want to make. You will find this is a little on the thin side when you first make it. Put a lid on it, stick it in the fridge for half an hour or so to chill. It'll thicken up there. And last but not least, we're going to make those meringues. This is also just how you would make like a whipped cream if you're gonna do that, or like a pavlova as well, but we're gonna make little cookies out of it. So the first thing we're just gonna do is gonna whip up all that aquafaba along with the cream of tartar. Again, we need a stabilizer in there, and you're gonna do that just until soft peaks have formed. Next, we're gonna slowly add in our sugar. Just do it like 1 tablespoon at a time. You're gonna keep on whipping it until some nice glossy, stiff peaks form. This should take like 8 to 10 minutes. The beautiful thing about aquafaba is you can't over whip it the way you do with like cream or eggs. It's just gonna get more frothy. You're not gonna overdo it, don't worry. It's not gonna turn into butter. You're good. Next, we're gonna fold in the vanilla extract. If you wanna use any other extract at this point, like an almond extract or like a mint extract or lemon or whatever else you want, now's a good time to do that. And if you want, you can actually separate these into different bowls and add a different extract into every bowl if you want to make a couple of different flavors. The next thing you're going to do is you can either pipe this or just drop spoonfuls onto a cooking sheet. And we're going to bake that at 225 degrees Fahrenheit for like 1.5 to 2 hours. Then you're going to turn the oven off and just let them cool down in the oven. This is the point in the process where you can mess up, and hopefully I don't today. Okay, so the meringues flattened right out. I struggle with meringues, I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's been successfully done. Here's a bunch of clips from other people's YouTube channels. I'll put a link to their stuff in the description down below so you can try their recipe, just in case you try mine and it fails too. But at least you know it's possible. I swear it's possible. I hope you enjoyed this Aquafaba masterclass. If there's anything I missed, hopefully I didn't, let me know in the comments down below, and maybe I will make the ultimate Aquafaba guide part 2, which I realize is a very ironic title. Again, we have a guide for making Aquafaba in our own cookbook. The QR code is on the screen. Email me here if you want to get a hard copy. We have them in stock again. And don't forget about checking out the Hume Health discount on their Hume Health Body Pod if you're interested in an amazing scale that gives you proper health markers, not just a number. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button, let YouTube know to share this with other people. Obviously subscribe for more videos like this. And since you're still hanging out, maybe you're waiting for your meringues to finish cooking. You can watch this video right here. I'm in it. I think I should be in it. Am I not in that video?